This is Anne. I am the presenter and the one who is often spontaneously creating errors. And you will learn that being spontaneous is more important to me than being error-free. And I believe in forgiveness. So if I mess up, I forgive myself, and I hope you will join in that. Welcome to this presentation, Heal the Child Within. Break old patterns and live aligned with your soul. That you responded to this title indicates to me that you already realize that there is a child within you that needs attention, needs healing. And my intention for this presentation is get to the last segment with at least 20, if not 30 minutes. So I really talk about the healing aspects of it. What will this will involve is breaking old patterns. We all have patterns from which we live. It's hard to live as a human being and not have routines, but there are habits and old patterns that are survival patterns. They keep you surviving, but they also keep you trapped. And I will discuss this further. To live aligned with your soul. Okay, where is your soul? As I put this up, I thought, okay, I feel in touch with my soul. I've done lots of work, so I feel I can come from my soul. And that's my intention today, to come from my soul. First of all, just a reminder about confidentiality. If you speak about anything from this webinar, one masterclass to anyone else, make sure you don't name names, but you speak about your experience. I have every confidence that you know what I mean and will respect everyone's confidentiality. Second, I want to begin by creating a safe place, a sacred space. And what I mean by this is feeling that we're creating together a place that everyone can feel safe. And we will do this by engaging in a process I learned from Greg Braden that he uses, constructed by the heart math process. And this is it. If you will join me, it's not required, but if you care to join me, first of all, locate that brain where we mostly are centered in. And just imagine moving that focus from your brain down to your heart. Even place a hand or one on top of each other to remind you want to be there just for a minute. And even imagine yourself breathing from your heart. This is step 2, the breath. We will engage in a breathing process that calms the autonomic nervous system, which is 4 counts breathing in and 6 counts exhaling, preferably from your mouth slightly open. Begin again, breathing in and exhaling to the count of 6. Again. Exhale. The best you can, set your intention to breathe this way for about a minute more. That's element number 2, the breath. The second is to turn to a positive emotion. And I choose gratitude as the emotion that we focus on. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I will focus on saying thank you to each of you who have shown up here to give me the opportunity to share what I've learned. And my learning has touched upon my heart, the wisdom in my heart, from which I intend to come from as I present today. I am thankful that you too bring your curiosity, open hearts, open minds to listen to why you're here. It's not for everything I say, but a few things that need to be emphasized to you. And I hope by the way that I am inspired and intuition informs me to speak about these things, it will touch you in a way that material may not have touched you before. Because this is about your moving forward. And I am hoping that you register to be here because you want to know how to move forward. And I thank you for your getting in touch with that. So that's the end of the process of creating a sacred space using these 3 elements. Introductions. For those who don't know, Doug is my co-host and partner, and he will handle the chats so that I don't have to look at the chats and know that you're communicating with me. First, writing simple yeses when it is something you can say yes to. Second, an introduction to me, for those who don't know me. My official bio is this. In 1981, I earned my PhD in clinical psychology. So I've been with clients for over 40 years. In that time, I moved from doing the best I could with my clients at UC Berkeley's Counseling Center to be in private practice, learning more and more what I hoped would make me a better practitioner, psychotherapist, coach. So in that time, I have taken numerous trainings and I come to you with many certifications. But that's not the real story. The real story is, and this is where Doug said, please shorten your real story. So I'm going to do the best I can and highlights from my real story. When I was about 7, 8, or 9, I spent a lot of time at my aunt's house with my cousin. My aunt said to me, you don't have much looks going for you. So you have your intelligence. So use your intelligence. And I did. And that's why my life was about using my intellect up to 7 years ago. Another incident that untangle my tongue, comes to mind is when I was about 7 or 8, I was looking up at the stars in Hawaii, asking God, where are you? You see, I had been molested by a neighbor boy. I was confused and lost. And I, coming from a Buddhist Shinto home, somehow looked up, asking God, where are you? And that was a drumbeat for my whole life. And then what I did, the best I could, was using my intellect, kept doing what I needed to advance. So I got eventually my PhD, and I carry the role and the face of a successful professional. And I believe that's where I was. I had arrived. But 11 years ago, intuition broke through my intellect and said, listen to the cries of your heart. I was writing a chapter in my book. I followed that intuition, wrote a chapter that turned into a book, that turned into my specialty now, inner child work. Intuition wasn't done with me. 5 years later, I was in the middle of a challenge run by Colette Stryker, the founder of the MAP Institute. Intuition said, take this training. I didn't even know what this training was, but I took it. 6 months later, I became the 49th MAP practitioner in the world. You'll learn more about MAP. It's about aligning with a trained subconscious so that you can have the power of the subconscious working on your behalf, which I'll explain in section 2. So I need to get to section 3. So that's the real story behind the surface. There's another element which I hope I will get to mention, but we move on. So it's time for your participation. Say yes in the chat. If you ever feel like you should be happy, but something inside of you still aches for more. I wish somebody had asked me that from years 20 to 60.
We have a
Next.
lot of yeses and one absolutely yes.
Okay. Second, say yes in the chat if you notice the same struggles returning year after year, no matter how much you try to rise above them. You're here because you're conscientious. You want to do better. And yet you struggle and struggle. Are there any yeses showing up for this?
Oh, there are a number of yeses.
Yes, I see the numbers increase. Thank you. Say yes in the chat if you carry a quiet loneliness, even when surrounded by people. Now, this is an aspect of the hidden inner child, and I see yeses coming in.
Yes, and 100% yes. And every day, yes.
All right. Thank you for showing up here and admitting to this. Say yes in the chat if you take care of everyone else and still feel unseen yourself. The yeses are coming in. I
Yes.
see that.
hmm Absolutely 100%.
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you. And then finally, say yes in the chat if you sense there is a younger part of you still waiting to be understood. It touches my heart to say that.
Yes, there's
Yes.
so
Hey,
much so.
yeah.
Yes, all the time.
Wow. You're in the right place. We have reached 94 in the chat that I can see. Once it hits 99, I can no longer see it. So I appreciate everyone who responded. Your saying yes tells me that we are covering material that will be very helpful to you. So, just for structure to keep me on aligned with my intention, The first section will be, what are your struggles? The section two is, who is the child within? And section three, which I hope to get to by at least 12:05, is healing your inner child. What are your struggles? For anyone who works with me, I talk about awareness a lot. I think that awareness is our single most um, gift that we can have because it shows light on where we are and it allows us to see more. In this particular case, it is about where's the pain. You've identified by saying yes in the chat some of what you can see. But in my presentation, I hope to have you bring your awareness to so much more because if you don't know the territory that is your inner life, you don't appreciate how much darkness or pain there is to clear. It might actually scare you, and we'll talk about that, about how awareness, I'll say for the first time, remember saying, awareness is your antidote. It's your resource to deal with pain. Um, and hopefully I will say more about this, but put a note in your journal to say, I need to become more and more aware. I need to use the light of awareness to help me on my journey forward. Okay, let's see what else we have to say about this. All right, a time of self-reflection. This is a time where I'll give you about a minute to pay attention to any one of these questions. Just scan it and see what jumps out at you, or just pick one. And for the next minute, write in your journal about it. And in a minute, I'll call you back and we'll see what you have created. A minute started. So stop for now. And as I said before, if you can use a self-reflective question to journal, there is much you can learn about your inner world. So in the chat, please share. You found an emotion that calls, please name it. You found a difficult situation, please name it. Name your repeating pattern. Did you find a message in your heart about your pain? Have you found what right now you're most out of alignment with? So please share a word or phrase, what you gain in this minute of self-reflection, and Doug will share some of what you have put in the chat.
Uh, Jill Marie says, joy because I could finally prioritize my own peace. Pride because I successfully executed the mass exodus from every narcissist in my life.
Oh, congratulations.
Ariel Hacker said the emotion that calls and is specifically at inside is anger at injustice. Dar says being lost and feeling not worthy. TP says hell is other people.
Oh,
Quote from Sartre. Rachel's iPad, lack of trust in people I ironically admire.
thank you. We
Uh,
will move on. I appreciate what you started, what you said, all of you. Now, why you need to hear from your heart. The dominance of the thinking mind is so prevalent, we don't mostly think about it, do we? In our culture, in our education process, it's all about science, information, history, facts, 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 scientific findings. This is what the news is about. And while I don't quarrel with any of it, the dominance of the thinking mind needs balance. It needs room for the heart. How many of you have heard of emotional intelligence? Do you ever feel that you have been educated with emotional intelligence, about emotional intelligence? I I never was. No one ever talked to me ever in my whole life, practically, about feelings. And when you're growing up, not being exposed to any of this, you do the best you can. You do trial and error, make mistakes, and take in messages that are not supportive of you. When emotions are messages from our hearts, and if we don't listen to the message from your heart because we're so busy in the brain, in the thinking mind, we're missing very important signals to tell us how to live because our heart is our emotional system designed to guide us. So, as a short excursion into this section, say yes in the chat if you don't deal well with these emotions. And I'll wait to hear Doug tell me whether people are admitting yes. Oh, I
yes.
actually see numbers. Yay. Yes, okay. Say yes in the chat if your mind is trying to figure out or fix things whenever you come to a difficult situation, or a difficult feeling. Your mind is saying, what can I do about this? I've got to turn this into something positive. I have to figure out, have a positive mind frame. And what did I learn about that, et cetera, et cetera. I see yeses coming in.
Yeah.
Yeah, say yes in the chat. If you can see yourself judging, criticizing yourself and others, you have this negative critic, this judge that is going constantly creating a gap between you and yourself because you're criticizing yourself, you're rejecting yourself, or you do that with others. So instead of seeing with compassion yourself and others, so you can move to a oneness, you move to separation. This is what happens when we are emotionally unintelligent. So, a brief recommendation that you think about emotional reset. And this is about listening to your emotion to get the messages from your heart. Every emotion is your heart speaking. You can write that down. Every emotion is a message from your heart. Take the time sooner rather than later, but later is okay, to say, all right, what is my heart trying to say when I got upset with this person? What is my heart trying to say when I heard someone criticize me? This way of listening to the message from your heart begins to create a balance between the two brains, the brain in your head and the brain in your heart that I mentioned in the introductory portion about creating a connection between brain and heart. And for the purpose of this masterclass, when you emotionally reset yourself to align to hear the messages from your heart, you're really aligning yourself with your inner child. So section 2, yay, it's 11:34, and I got through this section. So there is hope. Now, in this section on the inner child, I will cover triggers, beliefs, and patterns. First, triggers. Now, the overall background of this is that because we're human beings raised by human parents, we get hurt because sometimes they're too busy. Sometimes they're too emotionally involved in their life in not a productive way. When you're in the womb, your mother may have been dealing with all kinds of issues. She certainly didn't spend that much time thinking about you growing in her womb. And then she was dealing with her husband, your father. And there may have been conflict. There may have been stress about finances, all of this. Whatever was going on with your parents could lead to being rejected, your needs unseen and unmet, or even abuse when you were a child, a toddler, and you said something wrong that angered some parent, and they told you, disappear. I don't want to hear from you. Keep your feelings to yourself. You're too much. Whatever was said vocally or by actions hurt you. And in that space, the child in her consciousness, his consciousness, had spontaneously created an impression about who he or she is and the world, and then created patterns of survival to get what wasn't provided in childhood. So let's see whether my next slide comes up with some of these beliefs you may have formulated. Okay. There are many, and I've just listed a few. I'm not good enough is probably the one that is most common to all of us. Some form of I'm not important, I'm not deserving. I mean, I didn't get what I needed. No attention. I must not be deserving. Certainly not important, not worthy. So some form of lack of self-esteem. Second, I am alone. In this place of hurt, you see that you are alone. So the belief is strong in the inner child. There is no one out there, no one here for me. Third, love has to be earned. Love wasn't there, so I must have to do something. So that's a belief. The fourth is my needs don't matter. Well, that's an obvious conclusion. No one paid attention. It must not matter. And fifth, it's not safe to feel. Here are a few more. I must be perfect to be loved because being loved is so important. Seven, here are some of the things about life that got taken on. I should expect the worst because I got some things pretty bad. So in order to prepare for the next thing, I should expect it so I can protect myself. Another is there's never enough. There was never enough for you, never enough love, care, protection. And you may have heard your parents talking about not having enough money, just getting enough money together to get the food on the table, or some aspect of that. So the inner child took on the view that in the world, there's only scarcity. Nine, if I speak up, I'll be hurt or rejected. That's a conclusion for having expressed the self and being rejected by anything a parent would say out of their impatience or their own distress. Finally, the belief that I am not who I am is not acceptable. So, how about your counting from these two pages, or even listing the one that stands out for you? What beliefs you carry? All of them? Half of them? Which ones stand out in your mind? So write in the chat a number, or even the number of the ones that seem related to you.
Rachel says all of them.
Okay.
I must be perfect to be loved. 9 and 10. Love has to be earned. About half of them. I should expect the worst. It's not safe to feel. I can add, the world is a scary place.
Okay, thank you. As I said, this is just a portion of the beliefs that we can come upon. And you know, the good thing about Doug saying what he did is that the more you identify the beliefs that the inner child you have uh, more information to to work with your inner child in terms of healing. So we move on to the next section. The inner child patterns. Remember, maybe I didn't say this. When you were hurt, trauma parts were created. Trauma parts are what your inner psychology created to help you survive. Survival is their main point, intention, not to thrive, not to be happy, not to be creative and joyful, but to be surviving. And these parts created really young only want you to survive. And that's why it's important to identify these patterns because they got to you to where you are now. You're surviving, aren't you? And it's um it's wonderful to acknowledge the inner child for that, helping you to survive. But beyond that, we want more than survival. And that's why we need to heal the inner child to release the limited beliefs and strategies. So, are you ready? We're going through 10 of these patterns. So, as we go through them, please say yes in the chat so we get a sense of who identifies. First, the people pleaser. You always agree to what anybody wants of you at work, extra work, or somebody asks you a favor, even if you're overwhelmed, exhausted. You do it because this pattern works relentlessly in you. And the drawback to this is that you don't know what you need. You're so paying, let me gather my tongue. You are so focused on the needs of others. You don't have a chance to consult or know your needs. This means that you don't take care of yourself, you get quietly resentful, and you certainly feel invisible, which does not feel good. I might also say that any of these patterns, and particularly this one perhaps, can lead to physical problems. Because when you think about autoimmune disease, what is it? It's your immune system not supporting you. It's your immune system that's supposed to bring you to optimal health, not functioning. It's the same way that you, the adult, are not functioning on your own behalf. So that's one way to explain how physically your body can begin to exhibit symptoms like that, ulcers, um,
Chronic pain.
chronic pain, fibromyalgia, irritable bowel, um, migraine headaches, any kind of physical symptoms can be a sign of the people pleaser that hasn't recognized the pattern and have decided this must stop. Are we getting some yes in the chat for people
We
pleasing?
are getting a number of yeses, and some of the participants have actually managed to overcome
Mubia.
this tendency.
Okay. Thank you. Um, I will say this, that with any of these patterns, there are subtleties that can be explored that good for you for making progress. But like this next one, I can explain. So, the perfectionist, you spend hours on anything, any task, making sure you don't make any mistakes. So, when I was working on this presentation, I thought, wow, I can look at over every slide and time it and everything else. But the perfectionist, I happily laid to rest so that in the middle of doing this, I said, okay, I'm done. It's good enough. I can make mistakes. I can do that. Now, the drawback to being a perfectionist is this constant pressure to be flawless, to be better and better. It robs you of joy, spontaneity, and rest because you want to avoid criticism and failure. I know the perfectionists well. I think that most of you have some element of the perfectionist in you because you have a sense, I can do better than this. And the showing up here is learning what I can do do better in life than I'm doing now. The perfectionist really fears mistakes, as I mentioned, and that can be really tense. So that whenever you speak up or you write, if you have the perfectionist, you can hardly say or write 2 or 3 words before the critic is there saying, well, that wasn't a good start. Yeah. Don't you have better words? Whatever. So the perfectionist is a denial of spontaneity and creativity because it's so busy making sure you don't make mistakes. Are there any perfectionists in the group?
Yes, there are. There are some people that say they've dealt with it, but it still creeps in. I'd like to mention that procrastination, I don't know if you put that in, it could be a sign of
No,
being
no,
a perfectionist.
right. The perfectionist also can be the procrastinator because you fear that you can't do it perfectly. So you don't start writing, you don't start painting because you're afraid. So procrastination is a good sign, thank you, Doug, of the perfectionist. Next, say yes in the chat if you see yourself as the overachiever, where you measure your worth by how much you've done, how many awards that you've gotten, promotions, and so forth. So your measure of your worth is how the outside acknowledges you. And yet, if you're an overachiever because you really have not healed the source of this, the success doesn't ever feel enough because you feel empty no matter how big the win. It makes me think of all the people who win Olympic medals, who achieve their goals of swimming the English Channel or climb Mount Everest, whether they feel, oh, I am so full now, having achieved this. The wound that fuels the overachiever is much more than doing to fill the hole in your heart. How many are saying yes in the chat?
Yeah, there's a number of yeses. Some people are recovering overachievers.
Okay.
And Jennifer mentions that she wants to overachieve, but there's a block there.
Oh, that's interesting. All right. Thank you. Number 4, the caretaker. Ah, you're the one who steps in to fix everyone's problems, family, colleagues, friends, believing unconsciously that their happiness believe depends on you. So if you have an unresolved caretaker or even a resolved caretaker, you have found yourself in helping professions, being a teacher, a nurse, some caretaker in the health profession, a doctor, anyone who has even counselors and coaches can have the caretaker as their primary motivation. And the drawback is that while it might be satisfying on many levels, you can't stop yourself. You overextend yourself and get into one-sided relationship where it's never about your needs. but it's all about the relationship, the other person in the relationship. So if you're a caretaker, you are an attractor of narcissists who are very happy for you to pay attention to everything about them, their needs, their world. So, but they don't have to be full-blown narcissists. You can just step into people who are broken in some way, and your heart goes out to them, and you want to fix them, help them out. And there's nothing wrong in being a caretaker. It's just the unconscious place and the unhealed heart that needs the attention. Because otherwise, your own needs go unmet and you get fatigued and possibly resentful. So are there anyone owning up to being a caretaker?
Yes, there are a number.
Okay, thank you. Oh, I better move along. Here's the lone warrior, the super self-reliant. This is a person who rarely asks for help, believing you can handle and must handle everything. It's super independence. The drawback is it's very isolating because what super self-reliance is built on is the inability to trust someone to come through, to be the kind of support you need. You don't trust. So rather than being disappointed, like you were disappointed when you were really young, you say, I got to do it myself. That way, nobody disappoints me, and I get it done the way I want it done. So being on teams, ooh, that's hard. And the drawback is you don't have the emotional support and the deeper intimacy when you trust, when you share the burdens. Any yeses to the lone
Yes.
warrior.
And Taylor says it's less likely to be let down when the only person you rely on is yourself.
Right? Imagine the pressure you put on yourself, right? So there are, yeah, the dynamics are complex there. So moving on, the controller. The controller is the one who plans the details, and you don't delegate because you fear that others fears other will because you fear others will disappoint or create chaos. So the controller has everything in his or her hand, making sure that things turn out right. The drawback, life feels tight, rigid, stressful, and your need to control shows up in the relationship where people don't like being around you, don't like being controlled because there's no room for spontaneity and trust. How many can say yes to being a controller? A few?
Yes, not as many as before. I think it's really hard to admit to being a controller.
Right. Something to think about. So the next one, say yes in the chat if you can identify with a workaholic. You have to be productive. You have to work, 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 work. You can't rest. And if you rest, you feel guilty, which pushes you to work more. And it comes from a confusion of busyness, doing with value. So you worry about what's going on the outside world, and you neglect your inner world and your relationship. And it's a total burnout scenario. And even if you were to be successfully producing good work, you're too spent to enjoy it. You're not there to feel the success of it. Anyone can admit to being a workaholic.
Yes, Taylor says they work 6 days a week, 2 extra by choice.
Okay, worth looking at for sure. The performer. The performer was one who uses charm, humor, and achievement to win approval and avoid rejection. This is where the fear of who you really are works strong, so that you're a pretender. Heard of the pretender syndrome? You hide around the roles that you have, the good mother, the perfect client, the perfect employee, the perfect boss. You play a role. You don't expose yourself, who you truly are. And that is the motivation because you fear that who you truly are is not good enough. Say yes in the chat if you're the avoider. For example, you are avoiding emotions, you avoid difficult conversation because most important, you want to keep the peace. You become a conflict avoidant personality. You don't like the discomfort of emotions in your space and not knowing how to fix you and how to deal with that, and certainly how to deal with the person, the situation that makes you uncomfortable. So you create emotional distance as a way of protecting yourself in the world. So unresolved issues aren't ever attended to. And life, while you avoid the difficult, becomes flat because you're putting a damper pedal on your heart, not to feel. You're numbing yourself, the avoider. I know that well. I numb myself for most of my life. Anyone who can say yes to being the avoider.
Yes.
Okay. Finally, the hyper responsible caretaker. This is kind of a repetition about the caretaker. An explanation is that you believe that you are responsible for anyone who is in trouble, anyone's burden that you can see. You go in there feeling responsible. What can you do? You don't even ask questions. You ask or you act to take care of them. So you live under the weight of that responsibility that it eclipses the responsibility to yourself, to your heart, to your needs. And you might slowly notice that there's an anger building in your heart and exhaustion. Anyone admitting to being a hyper responsible caretaker?
Yes, I am.
Okay. All right. Now, how many of the 10 do you see in your life? Can you list for yourself or in the chat the 3 top patterns you have? And I'll wait to see whether anyone is listing the top patterns they have. And the big question is, how long are you willing to pay the price for having these patterns? So are we getting any number or any patterns being listed.
Yes, God bless all. Caretaker, people pleaser, uh, I think a little bit of that.
hmm
More coming in. 1, 4, and 10. 1, 3, 4, and 6. People pleaser, caretaker, the avoider, and the performer.
Okay.
6 and 7. Sadly relate to all very well. 8 of them.
All right. Thank you.
Maybe all.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate you taking this seriously and looking at yourself to admit the patterns that you may have. Then at 2:03, I actually am beginning section 3, so we're in great shape. I need the time I need to talk about healing your inner child so you have clarity, confidence, wholeness, truth. And to do this, I need to talk about the power of the subconscious. So pay close attention. As you pay close attention, it's your conscious mind that is paying attention. Only in every moment, only 5% of um, what you are aware of comes from your conscious mind. 95% is coming from your subconscious mind. Can you take that in? This shows that the subconscious mind has huge influence on how you experience yourself, what you see, what you think, what how your life appears before you. What is in the subconscious? Core wounds, emotional imprints, limiting beliefs that we spoke about, conditioned responses, and survival patterns, which we name some of. Then repressed or suppressed emotions, the ones that are too intense or scary, are shoved into the subconscious, like anger, fear, guilt, sadness, shame. Unresolved memories and internalized voices come from the subconscious. You know what people call your conscious bothering you? They are contained in your subconscious. And what was put in your conscience was not necessarily voluntary. You didn't say, oh, I value this, and you put it into subconscious mind. No, um, it was imprinted on you through Catholic education, through how your parents lived. All of these examples outside of you fed your subconscious mind with voices, with patterns that may not be welcome right now. In addition to that,
Even things like TV shows.
explain.
Well, if you see a TV show, you're seeing a model of a happy person or a successful person. So sometimes the templates are copied from the media.
Right,
And right now we're dealing with TikTok and things like that, where all these models of success and beauty and are laid
right.
out for people to look at.
Thank you. I love that reminder. And then there are symbolic images and archetypes, which we won't even get into, that can be accessed or sometimes come out in terms of people dreaming and having nightmares. They can represent archetypes. So if you don't know what archetypes are, go look it up and see the potency. Because as human beings, our genes contain everything about our human history. And our human history contains symbols that are very powerful. Like we were in a monastery, Mont LaSalle Monastery, this weekend for a concert. And they didn't have the image of Jesus on the cross in front of the church, the sanctuary, but very live, I mean, huge. It was right outside in the lobby. The symbols that churches provide and all the stories and the values and all of that, they're all in the subconscious. Um, and they provide lenses through which you see yourself in your life. So, the last point, subconscious programs and scripts. So you see that in the subconscious, there is so much there we can't consciously get to, and we need to if we want freedom from what we've taken on just by being humans and just by being in this world. So, when it comes to the inner child, there are conscious and less conscious ways that people write about, advertise, and so forth on how to work with the inner child. Affirmations are huge about changing beliefs and patterns. But you get it? Affirmations are things that you say, things that you write down to remind yourself, because consciously you're trying to drive that point of view or that belief into your brain. And that's why it's recommended that you have these post-it notes everywhere to remind you, be positive. I am important, or whatever it might be. Or programs that talk about mindset changes. You have to move from the negative to the positive, and just making that shift will make a difference. Guess what? Because it's on the conscious level, it hasn't touched any of the things we have talked about, the subconscious that is so potent in how we view ourselves and the world. So, people can offer you programs about how to connect with the inner child, but unless it moves into the using of the subconscious, it can be only so effective. So, let me explain. I wanted to make some statement that grasped this point, and this is the best that I could do. You create your everyday reality out of your subconscious so that if there is lack, your subconscious is creating it. Okay, myself, I say, what is it that I want in life? What have I tried to create in my life? And I say, do I have it? And if the answer is no, it's because something in my subconscious is creating what it is that I have. Do you get it? It's all in your subconscious. Everything that you want to have, but don't experience. So, if you want something different, isn't it time to work with the subconscious? Here are some wisdom quotes to encourage you. Joe Dispenza says, your subconscious mind is running your life more than 90% of the time. Take that in. Isn't it time you pay attention to your subconscious mind? Dr. Bruce Lipton says, your life is a printout of your subconscious program. Don't you want to get in there and change some of your subconscious programs? So, this is where a map comes in. the program that I use. MAP standing for make anything possible. We take your subconscious with your consent, train your subconscious to treat the childhood wounds, the pain, to neutralize and release the pain of trauma and the trauma parts with their limiting beliefs and the patterns that you follow. It is the superconscious that is the trained subconscious, and it's a divine part of you. It's your higher self that Dr. Gary A. Flint worked to figure out how to communicate with and train your subconscious to treat all the material and the sources, the pain that you cannot consciously reach. And the beauty, it's a part of you already. So it's a kind of like opening the curtain and finding Oz so that you can become Oz to actually create what you want to create. So, what this involves is a process working with a MAP practitioner so that in talking together, you become aware of different issues in your life, different memories. And with the presence of superconscious, you become aware of so much more, not to feel ashamed. And if you feel shame, to be aware that you're ashamed. So you bring awareness without judgment, so more material can be brought to light, which has been hidden from you, so you can treat it. What superconscious does is it neutralizes the emotional charge that is there and dissolves this energy. I include in the treatment the response to exchange the pain, the beliefs, limiting possibilities, and to exchange it with a foundation of truth, compassion, gratitude, forgiveness, so that the process ends up reprogramming with the truth that takes place of the lies. The lies are, I'm not enough. The truth is, I am enough. It may even be, I am good. The lies are, I am unsafe, I am alone. And the truth is, I am safe. I am not alone. Because Creator God did not bring us humans and dump us, abandon, but it was always present. We have just forgotten that, and we need to find our way home. Finding our way home means that MAP makes it possible to integrate and to become whole. So you have emotional balance, inner peace, and a return to authenticity. A quick testimonial from EJ. I feel so much better from 90 minutes yesterday than I have with years of therapy and deep personal work. So many people come to me and said, I have spent years in therapy and I don't feel I'm getting better. I'm still in shock how quickly it works and how profound the change is. And someone who worked with me longer says, Anne came into my life when illness and major loss, after major loss and illness, dealing with cancer, dealing with divorce, and death. when I could barely function. In a few weeks, she helped me find calm in chaos, and over months, I became happier than ever before. Thanks to Mam and Anne's support, I now live peacefully, grounded in my true self. She helped me reclaim my joy. Now, here where the patterns arrive again. Because you listen to this and you think, okay, I've got all the information I need. Maybe I'll explore what map means. But here is why not, why you would not do that. Because you still have the super self-reliant belief and pattern. I can do this on my own. And think of all the books that you've read, all the courses that you've taken, everything that you've done to make your life better. You've only gone so far because you have this pattern. I can do this by myself. I don't need anyone else. And that stands in your way to exploring with me how we can work together to finally get to the bottom with superconscious to heal the trauma parts. Why not? There's this loyalty to the thinking mind that I mentioned earlier in this presentation. The trauma parts are loyal to the thinking mind. So unless we treat the trauma parts, you have a very strong belief. If I can just think harder, I'll figure it out. And that's how the thinking mind hangs in there. And you believe it. So unless we do something about that commitment to the thinking mind, which is a treatment that I do practically every time with every client, so that the tenacious devotion to the thinking mind softens, so that the there is space for superconscious to do her work, his work. Why not? Ah, the fear of change. If something shifts, I might fall apart. This is why the trauma parts hold on so tightly to survival. If I can keep things the same, there's this subconscious belief I'll be protected, I'll be okay. So, fear of change is huge for any one of you. For me, about confronting something that can make a difference in how I experience myself and my life, changing my patterns, because the trauma parts fear change. Remember, I hope I talked about when we come into human life, we meet fear. Fear from our parents, fear of being alone. Fear is everywhere. And the biggest fear is change. Because keeping things the same has kept you surviving, not falling apart. So unless we address the fear of change, which is in your trauma parts, we can't move forward. You can't move forward. So consider, how are you going to handle this fear of change unless you have the support of your subconscious? Another why not? You identify with who you were. I have a client who is identified with her self as the contented in a marriage of 30 years. Her identity was, I am a contented, successful wife in this marriage. And if she thought of not being that or not being the wonderful, supportive, always there mom, whatever the role is, if you have to give it up, then you're stuck with who am I? If you ask yourself, who am I right now? Who would I be if I let go of my identity? If I let go of my patterns? It might be a little scary. So the process of working with superconscious helps us through these fears that identity shift will be disastrous. Another why not? If I have control, I'll be safe. And if I give space to superconscious, don't I lose control? Do I want to do this? So I'm hoping I'm addressing some of the questions you have, because it is these questions that are expressing parts of your subconscious beliefs and patterns that will prevent you from exploring with me, working with the superconscious. Why not? Some of us may be knowledgeable enough to realize that when we are who we are, we can keep our relationships. But if we change, if we grow, others will pull away. A client just texted me and said, if I don't respond to this person, if I turn away from this person, I am changing the relationship. I'm saying yes to myself. But doesn't that mean that everyone seeing this change and feeling this change will pull away? Will I lose all my relationships? I don't know what form that might take for you, but if that fear isn't met straight on, you'll never move to change, to become more authentic and whole and true to yourself. Ah, another one, distrust of ease. Real healing should be hard. It's kind of like dragging this huge burden. If it isn't hard, it's not real healing. And with superconscious, the MAP method, it's in so many ways so easy. It's simple, it's deep, it's effective. It isn't hard. What may be difficult is going through all the patterns that I've named that prevent you from aligning with your subconscious and working with your subconscious on your behalf. And when you do, you've got your superpower. So when you heal your heart, you will know yourself before the pain. So uh, let me know, Doug, what Kelly or Rhonda has to say. She raised her hand. When you heal your heart, you will know that your essence is love. You will know your sole purpose for being here, and you will live from your heart, not your wounds. So say yes in the chat if you'd like to release the pattern that created your adult script. If you'd like to take advantage of your superpower the power of the subconscious working for you. Do we have any yes in the chat for either of those? Thank you for those who are saying yes. Doug, are you here?
I muted myself. I'm unmuted now. Whoever raised their hand, I no longer see.
Okay, so have person who raised a hand raise it by using uh, the hints down on the bottom of your screen. In the meantime, we have a minute or so for you to put in your takeaways, anything, an insight, a fresh view of your perspective, your possibilities. I got distracted by this image I have there. I just love this view of a different perspective that is so uplifting, how the trees are connected up there. So, do we have any takeaways? While you write, Eckhart Tolle says, we cling to our pain because it is familiar. The unknown is frightening, even when it promises freedom. Take this in. Is it freedom or is it comfort that you want? So I have this up for anyone who is open to a 45 time when we can discuss what happened in this master class, answer your questions, and to discover why or why not you'd be willing to work with your enhanced subconscious, your superconscious, to claim your essence of truth, goodness, and yourself as love. So I will leave this up on the screen. I am going to stop.
And
Yeah.
and some people wanted to know if there was a chance to ask questions at the end.
Yeah.
So
So,
if you can unmute everybody,
right. So let me stop the screen share. So I'm going to do that and then I'll stop the recording, I think. Stop screen, stop share. And okay. Now we can chat since we're now at the end of the 90 minutes, asking questions. You're welcome. You're welcome for all the thank yous that are coming through. So,
I'd also like to point out that uh, the discovery call that I put a link up
in the
to, and
chat,
that you also put a link on the slides, is a free meeting to introduce yourself personally to people and to let them know how you work with
right,
clients.
exactly. I didn't hear the word free, so I wanted to say it is a free of charge session, and I'll be in touch with you for those of you who are responding positively to our time together. So if it's okay, I will stop the recording and we'll just ask questions and talk. Is everyone agreeable to that? Yes? Yes? Okay. Recording being stopped.